So if you're wondering what's on my head right now, I have these really cool Star Wars Mickey Mouse ears, but they're also Spider-Man. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am so excited to share this DIY with you guys today. I had so much fun making this project and I just think it's so cool. Yeah, check it out. So I'm going to Disneyland at the end of this week and I'm so excited. I go to Disneyland a lot, but you know, that's okay. We don't need to discuss that right now. I really wanted a unique pair of mouse ears that really just like shared what my interests at Disneyland are, Star Wars and Summer of Heroes, which I'm so excited to see, like the new Guardians ride and everything. But yeah, so I couldn't decide on just one fabric for my mouse ears. So I actually decided to do a sort of reversible, double-sided mouse ears. In Disneyland, I'm going to be rocking the Star Wars, and when I go to California Adventures, I'm going to be rocking the Spider-Man. So yeah, I'm super excited, and without further ado, this is a really long video, so we're just going to get on into it, and you guys can see how to make your very own Minnie Mouse double-sided mouse ears. Let's get into it. So the first thing you're going to need is fabric of your choosing. I picked 2 different fabrics. Fabric for your bow, craft foam, a piece of printer paper, a protractor, headbands, a glue gun and or sewing machine, stuffing, and a marker. And obviously you're gonna need some scissors. Off with my blank piece of paper, and I'm gonna set my protractor to 6, and I'm just going to draw a circle on my piece of paper. Gonna try and keep it in the corner because we're going to be making 3 other circles as well. So next I'm setting my protractor to 5.5, and I'm just going to repeat the circle drawing process. For the 3rd circle, I am setting my protractor to 5 and just drawing one last circle. So now I have my 3 circles, and I'm going to take the marker that I have and just kind of draw a little arch to signify kind of where the mouse ears are going to lay on my headband. So now I'm just cutting out the 3 circles that I made, and once I have cut out the complete circle, I'm going to cut out the arches as well. It's going to be important to label these templates, so I am just using the bigger template, and this is going to be what I use to cut out my fabric. And the middle size one is the line that I'm going to use to glue the 2 pieces together. And the final smaller circle is what I'm going to use to cut out the foam filling. So now I am laying out my fabric and just seeing what specific parts of the fabric I want to use. This is obviously optional, but I just really wanted to make sure my ears were exactly what I wanted. So yeah, I'm just looking for the parts of the fabric that I want to use. Once I have found the parts that I want to use, I'm putting my fabric template on the fabric, and I'm going to trace it out with the marker that I have. Now I am just going to cut out a square around the part that I traced, just so it's going to make it a little bit easier when I go to cut out the actual shape. I'm obviously doing the same thing again for the other ear, but if you don't really care what part of the fabric you use, you can also fold the fabric over when you cut it. That way you'll have 2 identical ears. So now that I have my 2 squares, I'm just going to cut out the actual traced part of the fabric.
Should have done this, should have quit this long ago. Can't stand another heartbreak, but it's time to let it go. It'd be easier for me if I turn away to flee. Oh.
So this is what I ended up with, and I did the same thing with my other fabric, so I just have my 4 ears. Now you're taking your glue template and you're just going to trace around this circle. This is going to give you an idea of where you need to glue or sew your fabric together. Keep in mind, if you use glue, you need to be super careful to stay on this line because otherwise your ear is going to be divotty. So once you have your glue, you're just going to want to stick the ears together, opposite fabrics but facing each other with their pattern.
But something's forcing me.
Now taking our craft foam, we are going to use the fill template and we're just going to trace this in and we're going to be cutting this out, and this is the foam that's going to fill the inside of our ears. Now that our fabric should be done drying, we are just going to flip it inside out. This is why it's important not to glue or sew the bottom portion of the ears. So now you're going to take your craft foam and fold it and really just stuff it into the ears any way you can get it in. This part kind of involves a lot of like working and kind of just getting it to fit in and look the way you want it to. Once the foam is in our ears, we're going to be taking the stuffing and make sure you kind of tear this apart when you stuff it in just so that it's not lumpy, and also make sure that you are stuffing it on both sides of the foam. And just continue stuffing it until you get your desired look. So moving on to our headband, we're just going to take a thin piece of fabric and I'm just going to start by putting a little dot of glue on the fabric and just sticking the headband to it. I personally didn't want the fabric to cover the entirety of the headband just because I still wanted to have some grip, but it's entirely up to you if you decide to cover the whole headband. So then I am just putting the glue directly onto the headband and slowly smoothing the fabric over the headband. It's important to take your time with this part because otherwise you will have a pretty messed up looking headband, and who wants that? Should end up with something like this. The next step we are going to do is the inner part of the gluing, and you basically just do the same thing, but be careful with your wrapping, and like I said before, just take your time and really get it to the way you want it to be.
But something's forcing me to stay. It'd be easier for me if I turn away to flee. Oh. But there's something holding on in the way of being I'm gone.
So then I am just gluing the inner parts of the ears closed, and don't worry if they're not all the way closed because we are still going to be gluing it onto the headband. So now that we have our ears and our headband, I'm just kind of seeing where I want to place my ears, and I marked that with my marker just so that I don't have some like weird lopsided looking ears. I'm taking my hot glue gun and just putting some glue. I was really generous with the amount of glue because I really wanted my ears to stay on. And afterwards I just kind of touched up the corners with glue. Don't worry if it's a little messy because the bow is going to cover a lot of that. For the bow, I am just measuring about 4.5 inches. Of course, you can make your bow bigger or smaller, but this is just the size that I wanted and that I felt would look good on my bow. But feel free to make your bow as large or as small as you desire. So I flipped my fabric over and I just folded it in fourths, and this is how I'm going to glue it. While that's drying, I'm just going to take a small piece of fabric and glue it in on itself, and this is going to act as the center of our bow. Moving back to the larger piece, I'm just going to put a little bit of glue in the center of it and fold it on itself. Make sure you're allowing this to dry as you glue it because otherwise it's going to come apart. And what I did for this is basically just repeated folding the bow accordion style and just kind of got it how I wanted it to look. It's all really personal preference. Once you've found something you like, just put a little dollop of hot glue on the front of your bow and glue down that small piece that we had from earlier. And again, just really make sure that your glue dries so that everything is going to stick together and not fall apart. Just repeat the gluing steps to glue the two pieces to the back of the bow. You should make 2 of these bows, and once you have those, we are going to glue them onto the headband. I just put a bunch of glue in the middle of my headband and stuck the first one on, making sure that I left room for the second one. I also put a little bit of glue on the first bow so that the second one will stick to it nicely. And now you have your dual-sided mouse ears.